an area where I can go inside the glass encased area to clean, feed, and take care of the hive. So the other part of the dome will have seating for people to come and watch. I need snow wind loads to be considered as well as a foundation quote. Is this something you can help draw up for plan for a local builder or build and ship one that can be built in my location?
Absolutely. Most of our plans, we design around the customer's needs. And we can design for commercial space. Homes is our mainstay, of course. But yep, that's the kind of thing where we've set up consultation typically to talk to you more about the project, get more details, a better understanding of the space, and are these people just in there standing? Are you going to set up table space? All those kind of things to help you determine the best optimum size. And of course, budget is a big consideration in that as well. But we can absolutely set up a consultation, talk through the project, and then typically after that, once we have a better sense of your project, we can kind of get you on the drawing schedule if that's something you're interested in as well. And also talk about some kind of cost estimates. It's pretty hard to figure out costs, as any of those of you that have been on this Dome Talk a few times before. There's usually at least one or two questions that ask about costs, and it varies so much, but we usually try to give you as much information as we can during the consultation process. So something we can definitely do though. And it sounds like a fun project, so that'd be pretty cool. So absolutely.
Yeah, and I think to add to that, the final part of the question there, a plan for a local builder or build and ship one. I mean, I guess to lightly touch on the idea that you could like buy our connector kit and cut all your own wood and do all that yourself. But most of the time, that's our standard practice, is to build the kit for you, ship it to you, and then you'll have a contractor or a builder on your side that can put it up and help finish the dome with kind of standard construction from there, following the plans that we draw up for you.
Perfect. Perfect.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you both. All right. So just a comment from Peter in Arkansas, who is interested in building domes in the Ozarks. Is that an option for us?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, Dennis had a little note he put on here for us that we had a dome just recently go up in the Ozarks. So, but really, we can have domes anywhere, anywhere. So yeah, there's really no limitation. If you're able to build any kind of conventional structure, you can build a dome there. We have domes up on the North Pole. We have domes in the deserts. We have domes anywhere and everywhere. So absolutely no problem. No problem.
Yeah, and I'll put up a link in the chat in just a second, and you can see some of the examples of the domes worldwide that we have. So almost literally anywhere and everywhere you can put a foundation, you can have a dome. And I'll put that in the chat right after I talked about this next question. So the next question comes from Alan in Utah. Can you go over the internal woods choice, spruce, cedar, and what else? And possibly show some.
Yeah, do you happen to have a picture of that, Aaron, from I don't know if you had time to get one or not. Okay, here we go. So the middle of the Pentagon here is just a few options that are available. So the option on the left-hand side would be a spruce panel after it has patinaed from the sunlight for a while. The one kind of going clockwise from that, if that's kind of in the 9 o'clock position, the white panel would just be plywood. It is tongue and groove plywood. You can see the seam. We left it visible here so you can see the seam of where the tongue and groove would be kind of towards the center of that pentagon. But normally you would fill that in so it disappear and it could look almost similar to like drywall or sheetrock. And then as you continue around, you have cedar. That particular cedar has a light finish on it. And then there is, let's see, cedar next to it without a finish. And then as you come down to about the 6 o'clock position, that's a birch panel. So those are the few that we had a picture available for, but there are 20 plus specimens of wood you could do your interior panels for. The spruce seems to be the most readily available and the most cost friendly, I'll call it. The plywood panels, which are next to the spruce, are about the same price and also readily available. Once you get into the cedar and the birch, usually the cost can almost double to triple depending on the wood variety. So So spruce by far and away seems to be the most common wood of choice, but you can definitely do almost anything. So
All right. Thank you. So Joseph from Hawaii is looking to get a clear overview of cost to get a basic dome kit around 30-foot in diameter.
okay, yeah, and that's another one of those kind of tough questions. Dennis put a couple notes on here. Um, Basically, what he's kind of quoting on this is about 150 to 200,000. Again, that's going to be a ballpark, and there's so many variables in there. What's the market, the demand for the carpenters and stuff will kind of dictate what they charge and the supplies charge and where are you building. Um, but that's was Dennis's kind of good ballpark numbers, 150 to 200,000. Uh,
And and I'm
I,
not sure looking at that cost, if he says a basic dome kit, was that just wanting a dome shell that, you know, he's going to finish himself? Is that all of the materials for a dome? Is that you know, actually contractor finished? But it kind of depends on what your idea of a basic dome kit home is and how far you want to take it with your own two hands and how much you want to get from us. So we do a pretty good job of having our prices readily available wherever we can on our website. So you can kind of piece this together because it's we don't hide that stuff so that you have to like come to us and we'll give you the real price for the dome kit. Now, like the price on the website is the price for the dome shell kit. And so if you want to look at that and then realize you need insulation and you need, you know, doors and windows and all those things, and you can kind of go through the learning center and there's some stuff there that kind of gives you an idea of all the considerations you have to have, foundation, you need, all of these things, and that just really depends on how much you're going to do yourself and how much it's going to pay to cost to pay people to do it. So. There is the calculator that's on the website, but again, varies wildly based on location, as Derek was saying.
yeah, he's putting in, around $200 a square foot, which makes me think this is basically a materials kind of standpoint for the most part. Um, we do have a couple people that have built similar sized domes that are going to be a little bit more than that time it's all said and finished with labor and everything. So yeah, that's probably just gonna be the materials. But like Aaron said, anything we offer and sell, with the exception of a couple items that just fluctuate enough, we don't put the prices on there, are listed, including the triangle skylights and everything are on our website. So cool. Thanks for that
Great.
clarification, Aaron. That was good.
Thank you both. Two follow-up questions in the chat. One, just circling back to the interior panels, is pine an acceptable material for those?
Yep, yep.
Okay.
Mine is very, very similar to spruce. The reason we use spruce over pine is so when you have bare wood with no coatings or finishings on them, no varnishes or anything like that. It's usually a pretty light color when it comes out of the sawmill, and then when it gets exposed to sunlight or light in general, it starts to kind of patina. So, like in the picture behind me of the dome, when that wood originally was milled, it was quite a bit lighter than that. But once it gets to this color in this particular picture, that's as dark as it will ever get. It's not going to get any darker than that. So it does kind of darken a little bit over time. And spruce doesn't get quite as dark as pine does. So it stays it doesn't yellow as much either. So there's kind of just some natural ways that the wood will age in patina, where the spruce we always felt just looks a little bit nicer. But in other words, as far as the woods are concerned, spruce and pine are very similar. It's just they age a little bit differently. So I think Dennis found the spruce to age a little bit more to most people's liking, so that's why we use it.
Yeah.
Um,
I just put up here a picture of a dome that is fairly new and you kind of see what it's not the best picture of the interior panels, but to kind of see what the color is of like the new spruce interior panels, I think, versus the patinaed ones that we have from the picture inside the office dome here.
Yep, and this is actually a 30-foot diameter dome right here, almost like the previous customer in Hawaii was asking. This is a low profile, but yeah, this dome was probably built in about that price range Dennis was talking about for all the materials, and then the labor would have been in addition to that. So yeah, it would have been probably closer to the $150,000 side for the slab and the well pump and everything. But anyway, yeah. Okay.
Okay, thank you. All right. So we do have a couple of questions in the chat, but I'm going to save those because I think they're going to fit in with some of the questions we have later and be good follow-ups. So I will get to them, everybody, but we'll get them in with some matching questions that we have already. So, question from Luke in Wisconsin is looking to build in Park County, Colorado. I have a 5-acre field that requires high wind and snow load ratings, as well as a certified engineer plans for approval. The biggest concern or question I have is on roofing options. The land is in a high wind area where there can be 110-mile-an-hour wind at times. I'm concerned that a shingle roof will get ripped off, and Colorado also has hailstorms. Are there alternatives to shingles?
There are, and 110-mile-an-hour wind speed is not a big deal at all for our domes and for a lot of good quality shingles out there. So that would work. But there are some really good. I'm looking at a note on here, but it's a little hard for me to read.
It's
Uh,
50 mile an hour with a shingle roof, properly roofed. I think that's a very important note, is that it needs to be, properly installed with good quality shingles to have to withstand those wind speeds.
Right. Yep. So I mean, the 110 is definitely not a problem. In fact, I think generically throughout the country, they like to see a minimum rating of 115 miles an hour. So you should be good. And our domes, of course, have zero problem handling it. But another roofing option that's out there that's even a little more robust than asphalt shingles would be like the Rinky aluminum shakes. I don't know what they rate them on their website, but they're definitely going to be, they're not going to blow off. So
Yeah.
that would be another option.
Here's kind of an elaborate example of the Ranky aluminum shakes. It's I think they actually discontinued that color, so it's probably not the best picture to show people these days. But yeah, that's an example of what an aluminum shake roof would have. I think here's actually from our dome. You can kind of see a contrast from the shingles on the left-hand side to the Ranky shakes on the right-hand side, and kind of how that looks different without being the ostentatious gold.
Yeah, in fact, bookmark that picture in your mind there, Aaron, because there was a question later about adding insulation to the roof. So this is another good photo to kind of show that, because it shows two different things here. But yeah, perfect, perfect. Yep, so
So
no problem there, no problem at all. So
quick follow-up to that is what are the thoughts on a tin roof on a dome?
yeah, there's certain. So really what it comes down to in a lot of roofing now is the underlayments are really have come a long way. And if you go with like the Grace Ultra underlayment, that's going to be really your waterproofing. And at that point, the roofing material essentially protects the underlayment from hail and from UV light breaking it down. So there are more experimentation with different metal roofing options. Um, a lot of people try to have that transition from the triangles. Always seems to be a little bit of the struggle for doing certain roofs. So like the Rinky shakes are an aluminum shake, but they're small, and you can kind of, in the one Aaron showed you, they just wrap them around all the edges, which we don't necessarily recommend or think is the best way. We always still like to see them cut, but they're really easy to cut. So it really depends on the type of tin roof / steel roof you're looking to do, and what kind of underlayment you're putting underneath it. We did have a guy up in northern Minnesota who got an estimate from a roofer who does steel roofs that said he'd have absolutely no problem doing a standing seam steel roof on this guy's house and just putting in different flashings as the triangles transition over. Cost might be part of that though, because if you're really able to do it, but it takes a lot of extra effort and work, that just might start to become cost prohibitive at some point. But it should be able to be done with a lot of materials. We just don't have a lot of people that have done it, that has been performing well for 10 years that we can say, yes, this works great. Except for the Ranky Shakes, we have a lot of those on domes and they do work great. But yeah, do you got anything to add to that, Aaron? I mean, I don't know, you've been looking at a lot of photos. I don't think you've really seen any other. There was that kind of standard metal roof on a 2-frequency dome. As a sawtooth, actually, that sawtooth garage. That might be one to look for because there's a question about sawtooth versus flat top. Actually, I just thought of that now. But so you will see them, but Ranky is really the one I would recommend right now. But if you didn't like Ranky and you want to go for another one, it'd probably be worth a one-on-one phone call with me. Just kind of look at what type you are, and I can look into it a little deeper and see how that roofing would deal with the corners of the triangles. That's really the big thing, is changing your roof pitch and what does it do when it reaches a different slope, and how does it transition, and is there a transition piece for it, or are you making custom flashing pieces for it? So, but I don't know if that kind of answered it. I got a little on a tangent there, but
All right. Well, we'll get to the next question here. All
okay.
right. So Steve from Oregon wants to know two questions. One, can Douglas fir be used for struts? And what is the weight limit, the maximum weight limit for the cupola floor?
Yeah. You want to try that one, Aaron? Or are you
Yeah.
looking for a photo? Maybe it looked like you're looking for a photo.
Yeah,
So
no, so we did have a note. I think the quick note was that you can use number one grade Doug fir, right? Uh
yeah, yeah, number one grade.
I was looking at a picture just here. Actually, it's a picture of Derek as well. Um, that kind of shows how big the cupola is and how big the floor is, and I believe it's rated for is it 8 people? But I think we've even said that we've had more in the cupola in the office or something, and it's been just fine. I don't know. Is there a particular actual number, like numeric weight limit?
I guess I don't have like an exact number.
Mm.
Dennis wrote 8 on there, which if you look at the corner struts coming down, that means he's basically looking at probably a 500-pound load on each one of those hubs on that corner. Or the engineer may spec it out at that just quickly. But like he says in some of his descriptions, if you had a wall underneath it, bisecting that cupola underneath, you could put in as many people as you could squeeze in there. But and this is for a 40-foot dome that Aaron's showing you now. So this is the cupola size varies depending on the size and frequency of the dome. So this is one of the larger cupolas we have. But in this size cupola, I have been in a house where they had a queen size bed up in the cupola and used it as a bedroom. So there is some good room up there. But yeah, 8 people, I guess we'll just go with that for the quick down and dirty number. So it's probably anywhere from 1,500 to 2,000 pounds capacity, and probably more, but that's probably a conservative number, which is probably better to use. So
So Steve's asking a follow-up on that. With the 3/4 inch plywood sheathing, does it need to be tongue and groove for the cupola?
yeah, well, yeah, is he talking the floor or the roof? I guess because we use it on both, and I guess the answer is you do have more framing in there. So we use the tongue and groove on our triangle panels because it spans the entire triangle without interior framing. But on the cupola roof, we have some rafters built into the package and then also on the floor. So it's not as crucial, no. But that does prevent you from needing blocking in there and stuff. Like if you're walking on the floor, it keeps it from the two pieces from separating. So I'd say on the floor, yes, to the roof, not necessarily, but that's what we include with the package.
All right, thank you.
Hmm.
Our next question comes from Gavin in Ohio. We moved into our dome house, which was built in 2007, back in July of 2022, and love the dome living experience here in Central Ohio. One concern we have is moisture buildup and frosting of the triangle window frames. As the temperatures drop and stay low, condensation on the protruding window frames turns to frost and eventually ice, which then causes moisture issues in the wooden sills unless we are vigilant in wiping them dry. We're seeking insights to mitigate or reduce this problem.
Yeah, that's a problem that's not specific to domes, but all structures, conventional houses and everything where you have a temperature differential like that. In fact, in the house I'm in currently is a conventional house, and I was just pointing that out to Carrie before the dome talk. The temperatures around here went from, I think yesterday was 65 for a high, and tonight I think it's supposed to be down to 6 degrees. And so when you get a big temperature difference, the humidity wants to condense on the coldest surface, which would be the glass, typically, because you have that's your lowest R value of a house in most cases. So really the solution is just to keep air movement. That's why, like, if you look at a lot of homes that have like a ducted heating system, you'll see a lot of the registers come up underneath windows. And that's why, just to get a little airflow there. So sometimes with the dome, if you don't have that, and the dome, kind of the way the shape is, if those triangle skylights are recessed a little bit, there may not be a lot of airflow there. So sometimes like a simple ceiling fan moving some air could even be enough airflow. Or on those real extreme days where the temperatures are real cold and you notice it, maybe just get a little box fan even and just put it on a low speed. It doesn't take a lot, just a little bit of air to kind of help remove some of that condensation as it starts to form, so it doesn't build up until it forms, some droplets, and then it can kind of run down and collect somewhere as a little pool of water, which of course you don't want to have that happen. So, but yeah, nothing unique to a dome, and there's no unique strategy to fix it other than air movement. That's probably the key thing
Now,
that you can
I
do.
wonder
So
if are there any like common factors that would cause excess humidity in a house?
um, yeah, so that's the other thing. So like in my house, I have a couple of aquariums. So of course that's evaporating moisture into the house 24/7. So that puts my house humidity a little above where it should be. But yeah, if you're big into cooking, when you cook a big, pot of pasta, for instance, you boil a lot of moisture in the air. Showers put a lot of moisture in the air. So if you don't have like bath fans running to vent that excessive moisture out of the air, it just starts to build up in the house. Um, so if your house was down to 15% moisture, let's say, you probably won't have that condensation problem, but you might have like a nosebleed or something because it'd be so dry. So for most people to be comfortable and at a healthy humidity level, you're gonna fight condensation on certain parts of the structure, and windows are generally it. So but yeah, obviously if there's an excess of moisture buildup, like one dome I was in, the guy had a hot tub inside of his dome. So you can only imagine when that was in use, what kind of moisture that dumped into the dome. And most people want to use hot tubs, of course, when it's cold out. So it's probably when it was real cold outside with a lot of warm, moist air inside condensing like crazy. So that would have been an extreme example. But obviously, yeah, if you're not using bath fans or anything like that, that would help out quite a bit.
Great. Thank you so much. All right. So Adam from Minnesota had two questions. One was about the average cost of domes built by a contractor, and I think we touched on that in the previous question. Aaron and Derek both mentioned that. But the second part of the question is, can stucco be applied to the exterior to give it a Pueblo Spanish revival look? And would it work in a snowy climate like northern Minnesota?
Well, wherever you live, stucco on the dome itself will not really work too well. I should say it won't work at all, like on the triangles and stuff for like a roofing material, for instance. But if you're talking about the riser walls and the extension walls, some of the parts that are not part of the dome roof itself, all the triangles, stucco in Minnesota is still kind of a tough one to have good results for. They do have some synthetic base stuccos that can handle the expansion contraction a little bit better. But the last time I looked into it, and this was, probably 5 or 7 years ago, it was really expensive for the stuff that you could expect to last. There's a nice stucco house that was built not too far from the university by me that I've been keeping an eye on for the last, maybe 7 or 8 years. I drive by it every once in a while, and it still looks good. And that was probably the synthetic stucco that he used. So that may be an option if you're willing to spend the money for it in Minnesota. Obviously, as you head south and you don't have as much expansion and contraction with the extreme temperatures, it works better. And of course, when you get to the desert areas, it works great. But Minnesota, usually like your traditional stucco, is a tough thing to really have make it too long. And then definitely not for the dome roof at all. So. Not sure if you're thinking of the dome roof, but just in
Yeah,
case.
that's another thing people need to consider sometimes is a dome is mostly roof, in most
True,
cases. Like
true, true.
you have to imagine that like everything is like that's why, for instance, the windows on top are skylights. They aren't regular windows because water falls directly on them and because it's part of the roof.
Right, right. Okay.
Hey, so we had a question about what exactly is a cupula, and since we like to throw around terms, I was wondering if we could pull up a picture quick and just so we all know what we're talking about at the same time, because that's a very great
Yeah,
question.
it is.
Um,
It is.
Let me see if I
Good
And I
can.
think,
frame of
Aaron,
reference.
in your library, that one in, I believe the dome in Sedona that we show quite a bit, I think has a cupola on it.
The fireproof one.
No, no, the one in Sedona,
Uh,
it's the one on the
oh,
hillside, half on the hillside, half not, that one.
okay. I think I have. Yeah, I think this might be the one here. Let me share this. It
Our
might not be the one,
PowerPoint.
but it's still a it's still a good picture.
This
Um,
is a good one, yeah. So in
oh
this
wait,
picture,
it
since
didn't.
it doesn't show it on a
I mean,
dome, kind of the triangles in front of me with that triflex on it would be part of the dome. Of course, they go all the way around me,
mhm.
but yeah, that's like a good zoom in, and that we use this to show people the details of it. But yeah, if you got a whole dome picture, even Bear Creek, honestly, will show a cupola if you got a good shot of that.
Oh, they're on the wrong screen. I'm like, okay, so that is number 92. Boom. Okay. I think this makes it pretty obvious where the cupola is. I don't know however different
Yeah,
people pronounce it, right? But you can see that sort of like boxy protrusion on top is just that, right?
that's it. Yep. So that's a fairly tall cupola. Normally, we don't like to design them that tall, but that one's the customer wanted taller windows inside. But that's the cupola right there. And if you look at the garage, in this case, on the very top of the roof, there's another little protrusion, and we call that a ventilation cupola. So that's just for a ventilated roof structure where the ventilation can go out through the top. So there's a couple different cupolas, but yeah, the one we were talking about earlier would have been the one to the right in this photo where it's kind of sticking out of the top of the dome. And you can have stairways that go up to the cupola, and you can do things up there, reading chairs, look out your windows. Like I said, there that one lady had a bedroom up in her cupola. So as long as you didn't have to get up in the middle of the night to use the restroom and go down her big spiral staircase, that'd be an awesome spot for a bedroom. But I don't know about that other part of it. So
Fireman pole is always a popular choice.
yeah, that might be a better
And
way maybe to get down. Anyway,
and
so
not all cupolas have the floor that you stand in. Some are just windows to like let light in or to be ventilation that you can like open remotely or with like a long pole. Um,
yeah,
so there's that option too if you don't actually want to create a floor there.
yeah. Do you have a shot of Bear Creek maybe where it shows the fireplace with the cupola above it?
And I have a
That'd be
shot
a
of
good.
Bear Creek under construction, but I don't have one I think handy right now. That
Okay.
shows that.
Yeah, so that's and you know we keep talking on these dome talks, trying to create a little segment where we can go over some terminology. But yeah, that would be the cupola in this case. So
Yeah, and there's more information on cupolas on our website, like all things. In the learning center, one of the steps there is deciding whether you want a cupola or not. So there's a bunch of information and pricing on the different packages.
All right, thank you. I didn't want to derail us too much, but I thought, you know what, we better all make sure we're all on the same page if we have some new folks tuning in tonight. So thank
yeah,
you
good
guys for
call.
that. Okay, so our next question is from Sandy in California, who is interested to know if the blueprints on the website are available for purchase um, for those designs that we have on there.
Yeah. Yes, yes, they are. Um, we have we have some. Well, so some of the blueprints we show online are some of them are pretty old, and back in those days, you didn't necessarily need a full set of plans to get a building permit. Nowadays, the building departments require a lot more. So not all of those sets or all those blueprints you see online are something where you could just give us a call and we can mail you out a set within a week. There are a few, but I would say the majority of them are not full sets. So a lot of them still need to be completed. And if they are full sets and you want to make a small change, sometimes it requires the whole entire set to be changed, depending on what the change is. So more times than not, we end up finding ourselves doing custom plans for everybody. We have had maybe in the last year, a couple, 2, 3 people say they love it just as is, and we can send them a full set. Like that small dome Aaron was showing you earlier, the 30-foot dome to show you the interior panels. That particular dome, for instance, we have a full set of it as it was built by this customer, and the inverted version and one with a garage. And so sometimes you'll have a plan that's real popular and we'll do a lot of versions of them. And that is one thing we're hoping to have some time to do soon as we get more caught up with just our regular work, is to update the website with some newer plans that are real popular. So hopefully that will happen here in the near future. Um, but yeah, right now probably less than half of those plans are almost ready to go. And even the half that are almost ready to go probably need some additional sheets added to them. So, yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. All right. So the next question comes from, I apologize if I say this wrong, Kamyar in Missouri, who's wondering, how do you not have to change out a leaking oval window above the main entrance? I'm taking that to mean, can that be repaired rather than completely torn out and replaced?
So the oval windows, and I'm sorry, I lost track of our questions here, but the overall oval windows, and if it's a round window, either way, they used to be, and I'm assuming this is maybe the case with this one, is the round ones at least used to be a gasketed window that used to be inset with like a plywood panel. And it was a really cool looked futuristic back in the day when people did it. But ultimately, the gasket was kind of relying on the plywood to maintain its dimensions for a good seal. And of course, plywood would not do that, and eventually it could fail. So I think in this case, sorry, I lost track of the question here, but I think they were wondering how they could fix it
Uh,
without replacing it, right? Is that
correct,
correct?
correct.
So, um, yeah, that, really about the only thing you do if it's leaking and you can't do much to fix it anymore. Let's say you put a lot of sealants on it. The only other thing would be to put a little eyebrow above it or something, which is just like a little tiny roof or like a little dormer roof. Something that allows you still to have that window to look out of, but is protected from the rain infiltration that it's dealing with now. Oftentimes you can seal things up and fix that leak, but if you felt like we tried everything, but we don't want to replace it, that would be the other thing, is just to essentially protect the leaky window somehow with another over roof of some sort. And some people will do that even when there's not a leak, just to kind of protect the window below it better. And all your vertical conventional windows in houses have to have some kind of roof over them to perform properly. Skylights are typically designed not to need that. But if you're having a problem with it, that would be probably the best way to guarantee a solution without, trying to just caulk it or do some flashing details to it. That might be one where if you emailed us a picture and I could see it, I might be able to know a little bit more if it was one of those ones that was built into the plywood. Or if you're here and you want to jump in and kind of clarify that, we always like some participation from our participants as well. So if you want to jump in with anything too as we go through questions, feel free to do so. Do you got anything to add to that, Aaron? Maybe I miss?
I was just going to show a picture of a house that decided to forego skylights and kind of like in a creative and kind of classy way go with the vertical windows that have the dormers and have the little roof over it, is what it looks like. Um, and it's kind of a unique look. I don't think this is one of our domes actually, or is it
Yeah, it is. They actually took the one dome, I believe, the one on the back side, and they lifted it up and added higher riser walls underneath it.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
I,
That was the
I
one that actually had a crane and they lifted it up and put more underneath it.
Yeah, I believe this is the project that they did that. Yeah. Yep.
Mm,
So,
that was it.
All right. Great. Thank you. So, Julia in Colorado is would like some advice because she has a disassembled dome home she's interested in selling and wonders what that looks like.
oh, if you want to send us, we do have a domes for sale page on our website that we usually try to, with realtors' permission, throw people who are selling a dome on there. In this case, we want to sell us information. Maybe it's something we can throw in our domes for sale just to see if it'll maybe help you move that. Um, we'd want to make sure obviously that you had everything needed if somebody were to buy that. It wouldn't be through us. I mean, we would just simply help you list it, but you could call us and let us know what you have, and we could maybe, offer some kind of suggestion on maybe what it might be worth, or depending on whose kid it is and all that kind of stuff. But that's probably the best thing we could really do for you. We could maybe help market it a little bit on our Domes for Sale page.
All right. Thank you. Okay. The next question comes from Clark in Alaska, who is needing guidance, solutions, or products for his existing 40-foot 1970s dome. It's a slab on grade with a 2x6 wall foundation and 2x4 dome. He's interested in questions about furring or extending the roof framing to be able to increase space for better R value. Um, let's see, among snow loads, drainage, etc., climate didn't seem to be a factor in its construction. So looking to increase the R value of the 1970s dome.
Okay, so here's back to that picture Aaron had up earlier with the rinky shakes on one side. So this is probably not quite a 70s. It might be a 70s dome, definitely an 80s dome, if not a 70s dome. So back then, R value was not, as important, I guess, as it is today. And so this was originally, I believe, this was just a 2x8 dome, maybe a 2x6, might have been a 2x6 dome even. And this is one of the domes here on our complex. So what we did on the left-hand side, there's kind of you see like a flashing piece and some pine needles that are kind of piled up on that flashing piece. And to the left side of that, you see like traditional asphalt shingles. And to the right side, we have the rinky shakes. So what we did under those asphalt shingles is we added 2 inches of XPS foam. And it's just like an extruded polystyrene foam. A lot of times people use that pink stuff, like the orange corning. It doesn't matter what color it is. It's just basically almost a completely non-permeable foam. And really what they did then is they just put the foam down, which gave extra R10 to the structure. And then they sealed up the little joints between the triangles of the foam with like a great stuff spray foam, essentially. And then they just went over it with a 1/2 inch roof deck panel that they nailed through into the original roof decking below, and then went over it with shingles. So in this case, it wasn't a huge performance upgrade, but it did give us an R10 bump from probably the original R19 if it was a 2x6. So it's probably like a 50% increase in R value. Now, if you wanted more than that, you could even bump these out. We have gone to places where we've added a 2x4 to the triangles, and we would go right across the triangles, fill it up with insulation, and put a panel over it and roof. So usually people will build outwards from their dome. If they have a real old dome that was a 2x4, 2x6, they'll leave the interior all intact, and they'll just come outwards however far they want for whatever R value they want to use. You could even, you know, you could go 12 inches if you wanted to. I mean, you could go out quite a bit. So those are the options. If you wanted to add R value without really messing up your inside too much. Because you'll have a second floor that may connect into parts of the dome, and once you start doing that, you really start getting involved with a lot of stuff, vapor barriers and different things. But on the outside, it's pretty easy. You just leave your roof intact and go right over beyond that, and you're good. So.
And I'm kind of
Great.
curious, is it possible to essentially do what we call the super wall on a 2x4 dome? If someone wanted to redo their interior, that there's no reason why they couldn't add the gussets and create a super wall, right?
Yep, that's basically, so the dome in the picture that's behind me again, that's basically what the owner, Dennis, the owner of the company, did here. So this used to be his personal house. And again, when he did kind of remodeled the dome in the 80s, he extended out, basically did an inverse super wall structure where he just added out the depth. I think he went to 15 inches was the final depth he went to. And that gave him a lot more room for insulation. And so he could bump up the R value quite a bit. I mean, domes are surprisingly energy efficient to begin with, but in today's standard, a 2x4, 2x6, even with high density insulation, you're in the R15 to R21 range. It just is not much, not much. So yeah, if you got an old dome, that's the easiest way to build it up is from the outside.
All right. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
So the next question is from Connor. Actually, he's got two questions from Alaska. Is it possible to build a dome using milled local wood that you have milled yourself? Any idea how long it should be cured for, and what's the ideal size to mill? 2x6, 2x8, etc. Any ideas on that process? And he also had a follow-up question about whether or not the cupula would have a negative impact on the aerodynamics of the dome. So the first question is about using milled local wood and how long it should be cured and what size it should be milled for. And then the second is on the aerodynamics and the cupola.
You want to grab that first one, Aaron?
Yeah. So the first thing we're thinking is when you use your own wood, uh, I guess, does it need to pass a certain like certification in order for a building inspector to say, yes, you can use this wood? I mean, maybe it has to be, free of insects and certified in some way, or has to be dried to the certain amount, which I think we're saying here is like 20 to 15% moisture content. Is that what it is?
Yeah, typically when you get kiln dried lumber, which is what we use, they go down to 19%. Um, And you also then, it's the same as, well, it's not the same as heat treated, but it does the same thing as heat treated lumber, which means it also sterilizes that lumber for any potential insects that might be in the lumber causing damage. Um, but essentially, you could do this and you'd probably be fine. And 2x8 would be the dimension you would want. However, like Aaron brought up, if you have a building inspector, they may want to see some kind of certification showing that this wood meets the criteria, recommended or required by the building department. Um, or, they may say we want an engineer to stamp off that this lumber will be okay. So typically, if you use, if you got good quality lumber, though, you're going to be fine as far as the structure is concerned. We use select structural southern yellow pine because it has a very high fiber density to it. Very strong, structurally speaking. It's basically about the best wood you can buy for building. But it doesn't mean that that's because that's how much stress you need the lumber to be able to take. Dennis kind of goes above and beyond the minimums. He looks at the minimums as the worst you can do. But like number one, Doug fir, as brought up earlier, is not as strong as like structural, but it's still fine. So if you use a certain type of wood, like if you just had an abundance of oak trees or something where you're like, hey, oak's pretty strong, you're probably going to be fine, but it'd be the building inspector would be your biggest challenge, I think. So, and then as far as the cupola with aerodynamics, um, obviously if there wasn't anything sticking up out of the roof, it would probably be a little bit smoother for the wind to blow around, but overall you're not gonna really struggle with aerodynamics anyway. So the cupola, yeah, it's kind of like extensions and everything else on the dome. Once you add anything to it, now as the wind comes around, it hits it. And you have in a cupola, you have 5 sides to it. So if it happens to be blowing where it hits one right on the flat side, it'll have a little resistance there. But It's nothing that you'd have to worry about as far as like it ripping the cupola off or anything like that. So you have your little photo in the hurricane, the post-hurricane cupola dome photo there, Aaron, while you're going through photos.
Yeah, probably do. Yeah, let's see.
So, Sandy, just this is just a public service announcement for Sandy. There is someone interested in the kit that you're selling. So, in the chat, you might want to talk to RD and connect in the chat without us there. You can get that little
There you go.
happenstance, meet cute for the dome owners there.
Yeah. So here's a dome. This was Beach Dome 1 that got hit by a hurricane. And as you can see, the dome itself is fine. In fact, when Dennis tells a story about when they demolished it, even with the heavy equipment, they had a hard time breaking apart the dome. And the failure point of the dome was the pilings it was on. They all got washed out. And these pilings, I want to say were like 16 feet deep into the ground or something. But anyway, as you can see, the cupola is still on there, no problem. So,
Yeah.
the cupola survived it. But that is consideration. So there's a beach dome too that Dennis built to replace this one. And one of the things they did, like on the corner of those extensions, and the extension is the part that looks like a conventional part of the house attached to the dome. They cut some of those corners at like a 45-degree angle to allow the wind to kind of come off of the corner better. So there are some design, if you're in a hurricane zone like this, there are some design considerations to consider regarding the wind load. But the cupola is pretty much not going to be impacted. You can see in this picture too, the cupola doesn't stick up as high as that other photo. This would be more like the standard height we would put on a cupola. So
All right, thank you guys. Okay, so Devin and Gloria, I believe, have two questions. One is that they are looking to build a small 500 to 800 square foot dome and wondering what the price of just the outer shell, including shipping and delivering to Evansville, Wyoming, which is probably more detailed than we can get into here, but it's something we could definitely talk about in a consultation. So that's one question, is just 500 to 800 square foot dome, general price. And then they had a follow-up question, is would ventilation be required for a dry climate like what you'd find in Wyoming? So for example, like a ventilation cupola or something along those lines.
yeah, ventilation can be used anywhere and doesn't have to be used anywhere. It depends on what kind of insulation you want to use, really kind of drives that more than anything. But Harry, if you could put a link to the store in the chat maybe, and Aaron, if you could screen share maybe, if you want to go to the Dome store or just go to our homepage and show somebody how to get to that page to
Yeah.
kind of see the prices. Because all, like Aaron was talking about earlier, we do have the prices on all of our dome shell kits and everything. And the model number is typically somewhat related to the square footage. So like a model 800 would be an 800 square foot dome on the main floor, roughly, not including potential extensions and an upper floor, of course. So yeah, so here's are you sharing, Carrie, or is that Aaron sharing?
It's me.
Oh, okay.
And I chose the wrong screen to share. There we go. I'll just put it over the other one. You can see it now. So this was just the dome pricing page, and sort of the basic of getting into what the different kits are and the different diameters, and we have the pricing for those. And trying to think, the dome store, as you're saying, though, actually had things more listed by model numbers, because the dome pricing for the shell kits were like, oh, I guess they have it here too. Okay, so like, yeah, as you're saying, a model 800, a 33-foot diameter, high profile, right?
Yeah, there's high and low, and you can see how the model 500, which would be around your 500 square foot, you can kind of see the range there. So you're looking at about 18,000 roughly to 30,000 for a low profile, all up to like 37,000 for a high profile. So, there's some ranges there. And then what a high profile means over a low profile is just one more row of triangles. So it gives you a lot more usable space on your second floor. So that one dome that Aaron had early on showing those interior panels, again, that was a low profile. So there wasn't a second floor even on it. It was a pretty small dome. So if you bump that up to a high profile, you could maybe even squeeze a couple bedrooms up there, for instance. So yeah. But yeah, so if you just go to our homepage and go to dome pricing and just click the dome store, if you didn't know for sure where you wanted to go, you can kind of scroll down and everything will be in the dome store from our kits. So you can kind of see as you continue down the list, there's our building kits, and then the dome kits are below that. And you got those skylights and windows and doors and the view cupolas. And so, yeah, kind of everything we produce or resell will be listed on there for pricing. Again, the permanent treated wood foundation is so dependent on the actual project that we don't have pricing on for that. And same with the interior panels is also pretty specific to a project. But almost everything else, you'll find a price for it on here. So if you really want to do the homework, you could price out to the dollar what the dome would cost for everything that we're able to provide. So, in fact, when I do contracts for people, I just go to the website and that's where I get all the prices from for doing any kind of contract is pull it right off of here. So it's the same numbers I use.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so Devin and Gloria do have two follow-up questions. One I will answer, the other I will let you all answer, and I just have to find it. What kind of insulation would you recommend for a dry, snowy climate like Wyoming?
Um, yeah, we've had a lot of people kind of leaning towards a hybrid system, I'll call it, which is a certain percentage of your total R value is closed cell foam and a certain percentage is fiberglass. The reason being is you get to take advantages of both, I guess. The fiberglass is a low cost insulation that's pretty easy for a do-it-yourselfer to install, where the closed cell foam requires special equipment and is typically quite a bit more costly, but it does have a lot of advantages. A ventilated dome shell is also kind of a bulletproof system in a lot of ways, where if you just did a ventilated dome shell without the spray foam and did some fiberglass, it's a pretty forgiving system. So if you miss some of the details, it's a little more forgiving than the closed cell foam. Everything has to be done pretty well, or else you may end up with some problems with it. So yeah, that would be almost something that could give me a call to really get into it because there's so many variables there. That we probably get 3 more questions if I got deep into that, but that is a good question. But essentially, yeah, part of it will be driven by budget. Part of it's going to be driven by, also fiberglass is a lot less expensive, but it's bulkier per R value. So it makes a thicker dome wall, which kind of shrinks inside your dome a little bit. So you got to give up some square footage to have a real thick wall. So there's a lot of factors in play there. I guess I didn't really answer it very clearly that way, but I guess any option works good. You just got to do it the correct way, and one costs more and one performs better, and one, there's all these pros and cons, I guess.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so Nicholas from Canada is he owns domes, not necessarily Natural Spaces domes, so he's interested in hearing what other dome owners have to say about them, assuming Natural Spaces domes, and really wants to know about how do you solve exchanging the air inside the dome? So sort of ventilation and air exchange inside the dome. What does that look like?
Yeah, I don't know if you have any photos in there, Aaron, of like an air-to-air exchanger. But essentially that's kind of the go-to now, and it's going to start to be in the building codes for probably everybody here soon. It's been in the Minnesota building code for a long time. There's been a few states that have adopted it for a while. But essentially, like for instance, so back to that Wyoming question, if you built a dome in Wyoming and you did closed cell spray foam for either all or part of the insulation, you're really sealing that dome up tight now. The newer building materials of today versus 30 years ago are designed to really be tight. And by tight, what I mean is there's no air leakage. So like the windows, the gaskets around the doors, everything is designed to keep air leakage from happening. So if you're in a home that's completely sealed up like a balloon, then it's possible to get toxins in the air there through cooking, different things. If you have like a gas stove, you're getting gases in your house. So to maintain a healthy interior air quality, they've come up with what they call an air-to-air exchanger. And really what that does is as it brings fresh air in, it exhausts stale air out, and it kind of goes through this membrane and it allows a lot of in Minnesota, for instance, it allows a lot of the heat to get transferred so that it warms the incoming cold air as it exhausts the outgoing warm air. And really what that means is you bring in fresh air without taking a huge energy efficiency penalty. Because essentially you're not bringing in, like in Minnesota, it could be 20 degrees below zero outside. You bring 20-degree below zero air inside, and now you have to heat that air up, and you're pumping out all this warm air out into the cold environment. So the air-to-air exchanger essentially was meant to be able to bring fresh air in, exhaust stale air without losing all that energy that you've already invested to warm up that air or cool down the air in the case of like in Florida or somewhere. So there's HRVs, which are heat recovery ventilators, and then there's ERVs, which also recover heat, but they're also they do more for moisture. So if you're in Florida and you are running your air conditioning, which also dehumidifies your house, you don't want that warm, moist air coming in. Then your AC has to dehumidify it more. So then it actually exchanges some of the humidity as well. So it's basically just a device designed to use as little energy as possible to get fresh air in to your home. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I'll post this link in the chat that I just had on the screen there too. It seems to be a pretty decent explanation.
yeah, that's not too bad of a one. And they're not very hard to install and they're not real expensive, but as houses get tighter and tighter, they become more and more of an important piece of equipment. Definitely an essential part of a mechanical system for a nice energy efficient tight house. You almost have to have it. And building code will make it mandatory soon everywhere and has been in some places for a while. So, all right.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I'm trying to catch up with my notes here.
Yep.
All right.
I
So the
see
next,
there's a lot going on in the
there's a
chat.
lot going
So
on.
it's just a busy night for us. So I don't
It
mean to be
is.
breezing through questions, but I'm hoping just to get to everybody a little bit anyway.
All right. So we have a question from Ian in Canada, also in Canada. We've got a couple of Canadians questions coming up. So we had Nicholas, now Ian, and then we'll have Vai in just a second. So the question is, do you have much information about harvesting rainwater using the dome roof? I imagine that gutters would go around the top of the riser wall. And what is the difference between a flat top riser and a sawtooth riser?
Yeah,
But
so you are correct about the gutters. And did you want to jump in there, Aaron?
I think I have a picture here to get started with on the gutters. This isn't the best picture, but I know we had this question before on how you'd put gutters there, and we can just show one of our domes here, and of course it's full of leaves, being that time of year. But yeah, it just goes right at the top of the riser, just below where the roof is there. Um, and so there was the question about what is a sawtooth versus a regular well, I guess, oh, sorry. There was the rainwater question. And so, to my knowledge, the issue with collecting rainwater off of a asphalt shingle roof is you generally, I don't think it's against a lot of codes to actually do that. I think you would need some kind of like non-contaminating roof in order to safely do it, or at least have the government approve that you are safely doing it. So a lot of people just, end up collecting off of something else that isn't their home for that reason, just to be able to have it cleaner. And then,
Yeah,
yeah, Derek, do you have anything to say about that?
Yeah, I mean, Aaron's absolutely right. If you're collecting rainwater, for instance, to drink like they used to, and they put it into a cistern, the asphalt in the shingles, if you're using, like a non-metal roof, metal roofs are a little bit better, but they still also leach out some impurities, but not near what an asphalt roof would do. So if you were doing this to water your landscaping, this would be perfectly fine. And if that was the goal, then yeah, rainwater collection is great for that. If you're using it to drink, it's absolutely something you should not do unless it's going through some major filtration. If you're using it to grow garden vegetables, that's where you're kind of on the fence because, how many of those contaminants are going to end up in your vegetables? I mean, so yeah, it just depends on what you want to do. But this is how you would do it. It's just a conventional gutter system like anybody else. You could have an underground storage tank with a pump in it to pump it out for like a irrigation system, for instance, or a barrel. Some of them have those above ground barrels that just sit basically right underneath where the gutter goes down or the downspout. Um, oh, you did find that picture. Good, good. So here's the other half of that question was the difference between a sawtooth dome and a flat top. Or yeah, we just call it a flat top dome, but that's what most people would consider like a standard dome. Um, and here you can see what it looks like. You can visually see the difference and really what they do. So at the top, so all of our geodesic domes and most geodesic domes built have what they call are based off of an icosahedron. And an icosahedron essentially is kind of, you can visualize it as being a bunch of pentagons. So when you subdivide up the dome, you end up with these pentagons at all the original icosahedron points. And normally that goes at the top center of the dome. In this case, what Dennis did, and there's certain advantages to it and disadvantages like everything else, but what he did is he shifted the dome a little bit so that the pentagon, instead of being top center, came down a little bit, and what ended up being at top center is one of the hexagons, which is 6 triangles instead of 5. And what that did is it kind of created this. It's not a new geometry; it's the same geometry, but the way the dome interacts with the riser walls, he called it a sawtooth by kind of the shape of it. And it allows you to put in some more conventional windows like the customer did right in the picture shown. It allows you to have a little bit more, you can control your riser wall height to get a little bit more headroom in a real small dome. So if you wanted to do a small dome with conventional windows and have a little bit of a decent upper floor, this is a little bit of a better system than taking this and put it on its normal geometry, creating a flat top, which means there's just not that angular, it'd just be kind of a horizontal line essentially. Do you have a picture of the flat top also, Aaron, that you could maybe throw in
From
just
the
so
website
it's a
there.
comparison?
Let's see. I mean, I guess most of those we've looked at have all been
Yeah, they're all going to be flat top. This is a 2 frequency, so a 2 frequency flat top would look essentially like all the other domes Aaron was showing as far as it's just a flat horizontal line that separates the dome from the riser wall beneath it. This just allows you to get higher riser walls, conventional windows.
I mean,
Uh,
here's an example of, I think, maybe I don't know if it's being off a crane, but that's a flat.
that's it. Yeah, so there you can see the dome is flat. This is a project in Colorado where they're putting a dome in place where they used to have a teepee structure on a restaurant. It's called My Neighbor Felix, I believe, is the name of the restaurant. I think it's in Denver, Colorado. And so they covered this in the gold Ranky shakes, is what they use for roofing material on this particular project. But you can see there, it's definitely a good picture, Aaron, to show how it's flat on the bottom.
Yep.
So there you go. All right. Yeah, that was kind of a cool project. Had to lift it up on that restaurant. It was pretty cool.
All right. Just a quick point of clarification before we get into the next question, because it's many parts to the next question. So when we talk about the frequency of a dome, what I know I can't explain it. So can you guys explain it for me?
Yeah, and that's another one I'd really like to try to accompany with a lot of visuals because I think it's kind of hard to explain. But essentially, an icosahedron is a platonic solid. So the philosopher Plato came up with 5 shapes. Like a cube is one of them. Everybody's familiar with a cube, where all 6 sides of the cube have 90-degree corners on all corners. They're all the same size. They're all equal. That's kind of what a platonic solid is. And there's one called an icosahedron, which is a 20-sided shape. And the icosahedron is the foundation for a lot of this. So as you can see in this picture that just got brought up, like the 2 frequency, they cut the original triangle of the icosahedron in half on all 3 sides. So you went from 1 triangle to 4, and then you bring those points out to a sphere, so it kind of curves them. And then there's the 3 frequencies. So the higher the frequency, the more you subdivided that original triangle up and pulled it out to the sphere. So there's advantages and reasons why you would change your frequency. And part of it is, if you wanted a 50-foot diameter dome and you wanted to do it out of a 2 frequency, your panels would become huge, huge, huge panels, and you'd have to have all kinds of reinforcement. So like, for instance, we use a 4 frequency when we go up to a 50-foot diameter dome, and the 3 frequency tops out at 40 feet, and the 2 frequency tops out at 29 feet, or about 30 feet roughly. So as you get to a certain size where the strut length, and the strut's going to be the framework of the dome, once it gets to a certain size, then you go up to a different frequency and it shrinks everything down again as you continue to grow, if that makes sense. So in this case, the 3 frequency and the 4 frequency are our 2 most popular frequencies of domes. But as you can see, as you go up in frequency, you also produce a lot more triangles, and each triangle requires additional hardware, so the cost goes up. So it kind of really is driven by what size dome you need will dictate the frequency. And then some domes are available in a high profile and a low profile. And and again, with all of our questions, it's hard to get in too deep. So that's just kind of scratching the surface, but hopefully that helps a little bit. I don't know. I mean,
Thank
that's a
you.
question that I need more time to really elaborate on, but
It's a good overview.
yeah, yeah.
All right. So are you guys ready for this next question? This one
We
isn't.
are,
All
we
right.
are.
So this is from Vivi in Canada. Um, I'm just gonna go one question at a time because there's a lot. Uh,
Okay.
all good questions. So what would be the best non-toxic insulation you would recommend for the dome? They've been thinking about using straw bale and want to know if you have a suggestion how to use that straw bale building as insulation or recommend resources. So that's question 1.
Okay, real quick, since there's 7 parts to this question, I would say straw bales are not the best choice for a dome. But one choice I did see that I thought worked out great was lamb's wool. You know, if you're just looking for, our fiberglass that we sell is fairly non-toxic. Like, a lot of the binders in it are really good, not a lot of formaldehyde or anything. But if you're just looking for like a completely organic material, the lamb's wool I thought was pretty nice. And it went in well. It kind of gets blown in and you can fill all the cracks and crevices with it. So that would be my quick answer on that one. But the straw bale is a tough one because it requires structure, which you can do easily enough, but it would be good for like riser walls and connecting links and extensions, but not so much the dome itself. I think the lamb's wool would be a much better and more cost-effective choice.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep.
So the second question, I think is also a quick answer is if they're interested in building a 700 to 800 square foot floor plan based on one we currently have, but wants to make minor modifications, does that mean that they will then need to request a custom plan?
Probably. I mean, if like the minor modifications were, can I put a pantry in this corner of the dome, or can I do this? Then you don't really need to change too much. But if it's like, I want to move my staircase to here or do this, it's basically a complete new set of plans. Really what the problem comes into is what we call the construction drawings. And so once you approve a preliminary plan, which is essentially your floor plan, and that's through discussion of the layout and feedback back and forth with you and the designer, and you say, no, my plan looks great, then the designer does what's called construction drawings, and that shows like your upper floor framing layouts and different things. Small changes can change all those aspects. And again, with the building department, it's getting stricter and stricter. It's hard just to make a note saying, hey, we just did this or that. So like I said, it's probably pretty tough to make some small changes without just needing a new set of plans, unfortunately. I wish it was a little bit more laid back and you could just say, hey, we're just going to make a few little changes here and there. And that's how it used to be, but not anymore, I guess.
I mean, I know we've had some people that we've said, well, if you want to if you want to change something, mid-construction with your contractor, that's a minor change, like moving the toilet a little bit to the left or something. Like that's the kind of thing that wouldn't even have to be done from us. Like you get the plans, you get the permit, you do your, you have all that. And from then, I mean, we're kind of out of the equation. And if you want to have your contractor make some changes and you want to get that approved or something, or whatever, or you live someplace that doesn't have very strict rules, then I mean that's all you at that point. We got you the plans that you got from us, I guess.
Yeah, like Aaron said, if you wanted to move a toilet, that's a non-structural thing in most cases, and then the building department's fine with those kind of changes. It's just structural, anything that involves the framing or something that changes. They just want to make sure that you're not going to be like, oh, we can cut through these 3 floor struts and do this, for instance, to make a change or we're going to put a post here that we don't have a footing underneath the concrete slab to support the post because we didn't think we were going to do it, but now we are. But yeah, small changes like Aaron just said, a lot of times that will even get done at the time they're doing it. They'll be like, oh, why don't we move this here and it'll give you a little bit more space, or this will look nice or something. And those can be done typically.
All right, thank you. Okay, so third part of the question. Which type of dome kit would you recommend if I want to do straw bale with panels or just the frame? And do I need to have building permit approval before purchasing the kit? There in Nova Scotia, Canada, the building code may be different.
Yeah, so we've never had anybody having a problem getting a building permit. So you could definitely buy the kit before you got a building permit, but I think most people like to have the green light from the building department before they get too far down the road. So I usually recommend to people that unless they're really on a certain timeline where they want the kit sitting there, so as soon as they get the thumbs up from the building department, they can hit the ground running. It's always nice to get your permit in advance if you can. And then that way, for some reason, if the building department pushes back on one of your design choices, you have the opportunity to change it and make adjustments. We've never had anybody get turned down permit wise, including Canada. We got a lot of domes in Canada. That's never been an issue. So I don't think you'd have a problem there. But and then as far as if you want to do straw bale with just panels or just the frame, so straw bales aren't going to be considered structural. So whatever, if you do incorporate straw bales in any potential with the project, you're going to have framing that actually supports the project, including shear wall framing, which prevents racking. So the straw bales really almost just become like an insulator at that point. So yeah, you need a framework anyway.
Okay. As a follow-up, what is needed from us before applying from a building permit? Is it just the preliminary plans? Is it the construction plans? What's needed from us?
Yeah, that's another kind of open-ended question because there must be, not even exaggerating, probably 1,000 building departments in the country, and they all seem to have their own list of what they want. And some building departments, in fact, I got a customer right now where literally I could, in the time it'll take to answer this question, I could just draw a picture of their project and on a piece of notepad paper, and they could take it to the building department and pay like $30 and have a building permit. And that's all they would need. And most building departments want the preliminary drawings, elevations, which show what it looks like if you were to stand on the ground looking at the dome. They want a site plan that shows where the dome's located on the property and make sure it meets all setbacks. And then they want construction drawings. And then the highest level of building department wants all those things. Plus they want the plans stamped by an engineer because it's a unique structure and they want to know that an engineer says, hey, this is good to go, you're fine. And we have engineers that are registered in all 50 states, so you can have a local engineer stamp the plans. And depending on the complexity of it, that might add a couple $1,000 to the overall cost of the plans, but that's something that is getting more and more popular in building departments too. So right now it seems like 1 out of every 4 or 5 people need engineering. And maybe even more, like 1 out of every 3 or 4 people need engineering at this point. So yeah, it really depends on where you're at. You have to just talk to your local building department, find out what they require.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So I'm going to combine these two. How long would it take to ship the dome kit from us to Nova Scotia? And then will the dome actually stand up to 360 kilometers per hour?
Okay, so as far as how long it takes to ship the dome, I mean there's a lead time on us building it after the plans get done and you're arranged on your side and we have the materials and we build it and we ship it, but we put it in a semi traditionally and that just gets driven to your site. For certain international things that have to go across the ocean, I mean, we containers have been done, but Nova Scotia, of course, has roads going to it. That's probably the cheapest way to go. And so the shipping time is just, the difference of when we can start building it, finish it, and get it on a truck to you, and then have it driven out. For the windy area, for the wind concerns, as Derek was mentioning, the we've had it engineered to what is it like 130 miles per hour, something along
Oh,
those lines, or is
yeah,
it
250 even. So
250?
in this example, they're asking about 360 kilometers, which is about 225 miles an hour. Not a problem. It depends on the dome. Some have better performance than others, but usually if we ask the engineer, what do we need to do? This person requires like a 225-mile-an-hour wind speed. He goes, oh, you just changed the number on the engineering pamphlet and that's it. He's like 250 miles an hour is no big deal. So yeah, in this case, and I know I've seen them do a lot of domes at up to 250. So I mean, shouldn't be a problem at 360 kilometers. 225 should be no big deal for that.
Yeah, it absolutely will
Wow.
stand up to it. It's just, yeah, as we were saying, like, dude, is there someone in a building department that needs to see proof of that? And if they do, then we have it. And just, that goes along to the cost of getting the engineer stamp for your plans.
Right.
Great.
Yep. Yep.
All right. What kind of foundation do you recommend for a dome?
The most popular that has really been dominating all the options, and again, this is all part of design and budget and are you on a hillside and all these kind of questions come into play, but slab on grade has been by far and away the most common. I think back in the days when basements were relatively inexpensive to build, a lot of people like basements for cheap square footage, but now they're not really so cheap anymore. And so a lot of people feel like you could do a larger dome slab on grade and get that square footage on the main floor for as much money as a smaller dome with a basement, for instance. So slab on grade, I would say, is probably almost 90% of what people order now. Every once in a while you'll see a basement, every once in a while you'll see a crawl space, but normally slab on grade is the dominating option. So
All right. And we did answer part of this question, but I'm interested in the answer to this one. Is it possible to have a living roof on the dome? The second part of this is to collect rainwater, but we kind of talked about that already. Um, Otherwise, what's the best type of roofing material? And I think we talked about that quite a bit. The Renke shakes, the asphalt shingles, depending on what you want to do. Um, but I'm curious about the living roof question.
yeah, the living roof is a tough one because of the angle of the dome as you get towards the bottom to retain soil in there for the plants and stuff. Um, you could put it like on the very top of the dome, for instance, if you wanted to make a living roof cupola, so like a ventilation cupola, some kind of little attachment that sits on top of your dome that could definitely grow plants, no problem. But that would be your biggest struggle as you came down around the curvature of the dome would be getting soil retention and moisture retention, and it'd be really tough. But yeah, and then back to the rainwater. I mean, and back to the best shingle choice. I mean, honestly, I prefer Rinky as my personal favorite, but it's very expensive. Asphalt shingles are just so readily available, pretty inexpensive. All roofers know how to install them and how to repair them, and asphalt is by far what most people go with for dome roofs. I like the way Rinkies look. I like it being a forever roof kind of situation, but asphalt is definitely the dominating roof choice. So
All right, great. So our next question is from Zoila in Virginia and wants to know what avenues are there for people looking to buy a dome specifically?
um
I like to buy dome. I guess some clarification. I'm not sure if Zoila's here, but like to buy domes from other people that are already existing, um, or like how to buy from us. Not
yeah,
sure.
I was gonna say we're one avenue for sure.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
pretty much our business is selling people domes, so you could definitely go through us. There are domes on our website, Domes for Sale, if you're just looking to find something locally. Not that we have all domes that are up for sale currently, but it might be something to look into. But in other words, yeah, we can definitely help you out with that. Again, usually it starts with a consultation, just trying to find out about your needs, and we kind of go from there. You know, needs and budget and all those factors. Okay.
sorry, typing.
No problem.
Chat's blowing up. Okay,
I
and
hear you.
now I lost my questions. Where'd they go? Here we go. Okay, so next question is from Christian in New Mexico. What are your thoughts on aircrete, hempcrete, earth bags, and other new building materials that are made from recycled products?
Yeah. Do you want to jump into that at all, Aaron, or do you know much about that, or do you want me to kind of jump in?
I think that's the main issue here is that in general, people don't know much about it. We're always trying to keep ahead of whatever the latest building material curves are and knowledge on how to do what's right for the environment and whatnot. But at the same time, these are untested um, materials, or at least they don't have a long track record. And do they have a long track record as dome homes and as efficient dome homes? There's a lot of different factors that go into it, and when you're building your home, that how you want to finish the inside and the outside, that is all part of the materials. And so using regular lumber means that it's readily available. You can get traditional contractors to put in walls and furnishings and cabinets, and there's nothing special that has to happen there as far as the material goes. Again, easier for engineering and all of those things, building permits. And I think when most people are trying to build their home, there's a lot of, I guess, discovery and resistance just in the lack of inertia that's already behind all of these technologies that are pretty new. So we can't recommend them, but because we just don't know and we don't want to put something in someone in a house that they're not going to be happy with. But we're definitely interested in those because those could potentially revolutionize the way we build houses.
Yeah, I think that's it. We just need people to try it out. I think the early days of domes, that's part of what kind of hurt domes in the very beginning, is there's so much experimentation going on with all these new products. And so there is something to be said about something that's shown itself to be reliable for many decades to use. But I think there's a lot of good things on the horizon, and definitely the hempcrete is really kind of leading probably the pack in a lot of products that are already available to use. And if you want to use it for insulation, it is probably a safe bet. There's some things that'd be safe to use for now, but the performance on it's kind of low, like an R 2.2 per inch or something. So yeah, like Aaron just said, I guess I'm kind of repeating it, but we just don't want to experiment with your project. with you. So we're usually kind of conservative on that.
Okay, thank you. So the next question is a two-parter again, from Michael in Mexico, who lives in Cabo, wondering about shipping there, which I think will kind of fall back to that same question about shipping to Canada, but help building from a contractor here. Do we know someone? Can you fly somebody in? So the main question, so contractor question, then do I need a concrete foundation due to hurricanes and the water that they produce? And then the second question part, or third, I think I lost count. Part of that question is, nope, that's it. That was it. The other one's just a comment. So you're good. So those are two, contractor and do we need a concrete foundation because of the water?
Well, I mean, I don't know, Aaron, do you want to go to Cabo, Mexico? Is that one of your destinations?
That
So
sounds like a fantastic idea. I'd love to help.
yeah, Aaron's a good he's trying to see if we can break away a little bit every once in a while, help somebody put up a project. But in other words, currently as busy as we've not been able to go to too many projects. And the answer is you do not need us there to do it. The construction manual and the virtual dome school are pretty thorough, and I think a good contractor will have no problem putting together a dome kit without us. If we're able to, and we could, we would love to. And oftentimes, especially Aaron, really likes to try to go out and help make sure people have a real good start to their project. But other words, yeah, shipping is not an issue. And the concrete foundation, water is one of the things you mentioned. So I don't know if some hurricane prone areas require you to be on piers. If you're not required to be on piers where you're at, you could probably benefit from the concrete foundation just to have your dome really locked down in high wind zones. So without knowing too much about your project, I guess we would probably say you would benefit from a concrete foundation, and it might even be in the codes down there. But again, I'm not too familiar with the codes in that area. So I guess there's some variability there, but but now Aaron's going to be thinking about that now. He's like, Cabo,
He
Cabo.
put it in
Yeah,
his mind.
I'm gonna keep my eyes open for this Cabo project that's coming down
That's
the
right.
pipe.
That's right. All right.
All right, I'm going to make a note to for the follow-up. He's definitely interested, so we'll make a note for that.
Oh yeah.
All right. So Eric from Minnesota is wondering if we have any experience or words of wisdom in building high efficiency multi-dome home unit incorporating 3 or more small individual dome homes on one geothermal heating system. He's looking to see if having one geothermal heating system with less than 50 foot of different, I'm sorry, it must be getting to be that time of night. 50-foot distance between each dome home, along with radiant and some solar power, would allow for above freezing temperatures all year round.
Yeah. Yep. It would. We actually have some small dome projects similar to that in Minnesota. And the geothermal, we've had a lot of people just recently, even Perninu built his with geothermal.
Yeah.
Um, now a lot of people, I think, with solar getting to be so affordable that you can almost supplement the energy advantage of geothermal with solar for a little less initial cost. But yeah, absolutely, especially if you're going to tie in solar and a couple other things here, that would not be hard at all. Would not be hard at all. So, yep.
Yeah. The one thing is, I mean, I guess it's maybe not we don't want to dissuade people from doing solar, but it is kind of difficult to put on a dome roof specifically. So we see most people put their solar array near their house somewhere on just a, whatever sort of stand that they want to use. It's just doesn't fit very well on the panels, and then also it doesn't get the same sort of sun coverage because of the circular roof, right?
You have that picture, Aaron, actually, of that mini dome with the bees, the fly's eye dome, and then the
Oh, the
solar
fly's
array.
eye dome. Yes, I do actually have that.
Yeah,
This
yeah, that
one's
might be a good. Yeah, Aaron's right. So here's a solar array with that's a fly eyes dome. It's a Buckminster Fuller design, and then one of our mini domes in the back with a that one actually has a kind of a walkout basement in it. But you can see the solar. It's like Aaron said on a dome. There's every angle you would need to get optimum contact with the sun, but only maybe on a small portion of the dome. So, like attached garages, or in this case, a standalone solar are really the best way to take advantage of the solar cost. So, good, good. Quick on the picture too. Good job, Aaron. All right. Looks like we're down to our
Okay.
last one, and then we can kind of open it up if anybody's got any last questions that may have come up during the conversation.
Yep. Well, we have yep, one more plus well, okay, we have two more. And then yes, we have some chat questions. So the from Teddy in California is concerned about building in the Mojave Desert, soft sand roads leading onto the property. How do I deal with the sand and dirt roads for deliveries of the dome material, the cement truck, the delivery truck, etc.?
Well, I guess really you just got to build the road to where it's going to be, and it's got to be able to support the weight on the axles for the vehicles that are going to be there. There really isn't any way around that as far as I know. Um,
Yeah, that's it in a nutshell. Yeah. We did deliver to Joshua Tree, California, and that was a pretty primitive road that they had, and that was real sandy in that area, and the trucks did okay. Well, there was a truck issue, but it wasn't necessarily getting to the location. So yeah, you can deliver and move all that stuff on sand, but like Aaron said, like any place, even in dirt or muddy areas, you need to have some kind of a road. And typically, depending on the material that the road's being built on, they'll do different things to it, and they might add larger material on that sand to kind of help distribute the weight of the load so it doesn't sink in as much.
Okay, so I think we have, let's see, I had a quick one. Quick two actually about fireplaces. Are fireplaces easy to install in a low profile dome? And are wood burning stoves preferred over a fireplace, or is it, a horse apiece, wood burning stove versus fireplace? And how easy is that to do?
Yeah, I am sorry I missed part of the question, but the wood burning stove is just accomplishing something different typically in a fireplace. So a fireplace is very energy inefficient compared to a wood burning stove, but you get that ambiance of the fireplace. So if you have a wood burning stove with like a glass door and you can still take advantage of that ambiance, you'll get a better heat output per amount of wood. I guess you'll feed it whatever energy you put in, you're going to get more heat out of it in return. Um, so that would be the big kind of advantage of a wood burning stove over a fireplace. But like Dennis at his dome, he has a real big fireplace that's kind of the centerpiece of the dome. So he did it more for an architectural design feature. And of course, they get a lot of heat out of it as well. It's a pretty energy efficient fireplace as far as fireplaces go. But yeah, I'm sorry, I missed the very beginning of that. I was looking at another question here when you
So it was
I
just,
missed it.
are they fireplaces easy to do in
Is
a low profile?
Oh, and a low price. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And some people, so there's rules about chimneys and how far they have to be above the roof line and how far from different roof lines. And so, usually it's a little easier if you kind of go out towards the middle half of the dome and you go up through there instead of like on the edge wall going up, unless you have an extension or something. So there's some kind of good and bad to the fireplaces, and it's mostly just around the flue and where you want to run it out. You know, you don't want to have it like sticking out on a 10-foot pipe next to the side of the dome to get up high enough above the roof around it to, you'd rather kind of maybe locate it in a better spot or use an extension roof or something. But other than that, yep, no problem at all. They install real easy. And I guess the question I got distracted on, I'll just grab it real quick, is we do have one of our customers contractors in here that had a question. But I think I'm kind of working with them a little bit. And I know what they got, and we don't have pictures of what he was hoping we'd have some pictures for this dome talk. So, Pedro, if you're there, I'll get you these answers. So, because I know exactly what the project is, so I can be more specific to you. So I won't forget about them, but I'll get that on you on an email for you.
I can probably give a quick
Oh,
once over on the first question, which was about installation procedures. And I think that's something that people might be curious about because you have these triangle things, and normally you buy insulation in these pink rolls and whatnot, right? So his question was, we're gonna do spray foam for 2 inches against the outer wall, which Derek has talked about earlier, and then also wanted some best practice and tips on how to install and achieve the most R value within the space that he has. And of course, if you want the most R value that you can get, you can just go thicker closed cell foam. It is spendy, and that's the reason why a lot of people end up simply going with like a combination of foam and fiberglass. So if you, for instance, get a super wall from us that's 18 inches thick, you might have 2 inches of foam to waterproof your whole structure, and then the other was like 16 inches there would be fiberglass. And the fiberglass that we send is on like giant rolls. Like they're like, 72 inches high, depending on the size of your dome, the size of the triangles. And then we send you templates and a knife. You just lay the template on this rolled out piece of insulation, cut it out, and it's the shape of a triangle, and you put it there. And typically what you'll do then is just take some sort of like Tyvek or something that's very cheap, and you can just staple it on the sides to kind of hold that triangle in while you finish the rest before you do the interior panels. So which are, made out of, spruce or what have you. And then at that point, that's going to hold it up. But it's not very heavy. So as you're putting the insulation in, like it doesn't take many staples to just keep it in place as you go around the dome, putting in those triangles.
and one thing I'll just add to that, when Aaron said waterproof, he means like water vapor proof.
Mm.
So the closed cell foam is also works as a vapor barrier essentially. So if you do a certain percentage of foam to fiberglass, you don't need a vapor barrier on the inside of your house like you normally would have. Um, but it depends on how cold your climate is. Like where we are in Minnesota, it's 50% of your total R value has to be closed cell foam to fiberglass. If you're somewhere down south, it might only be 10% of your total R value needs to be closed cell foam. And if you do less than a recommended percentage, then you do need a vapor barrier again. And typically at that point, we do a smart membrane because you don't want your insulation between two complete vapor barriers. Smart membrane will let moisture out of the cavity. Um, but yeah, he's right. Installation is pretty easy. It's just one piece fiberglass triangles you put in, and it's not too bad. A couple people could do a dome in 1 to 2 days pretty easily. So yeah, yep. All right, was that it for all of our questions in advance,
That
Carrie?
was all the questions in advance.
I'm
We do
seeing
have,
99 plus in the chat, so this is like a record, I think, for chat questions.
yeah, there are a lot of really, really great questions in the chat. None of them are short, so it's up to you guys and how you're feeling if and how our audience is feeling because we are rapidly approaching the 2 hour mark. But we could certainly start the next dome talk with these. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
Oh,
7, 8, 9, 10 questions, and that would have been from the chat and counting.
you guys think you guys up for going 15 more minutes and call it good and see
Call it
how?
good at 8 o'clock.
Yeah, I mean, let's go for it. This has been a lot of chat and a lot of participants and questions, so we might as well just go for broke here.
All right. So Peter asked, can these domes be buried? I'm assuming in an earth sheltered kind of way. And can you provision them for tornado resistant windows, or are there specific options for tornadoes?
Yeah, So Dennis, I think, has done some domes in the past where they were partially buried, not the whole dome, but you have to have small triangles, which means a high frequency. We talked a little bit about that earlier. So it does drive up the cost because you got to have small triangles that can handle a lot of pressure coming in. So that one I don't think I can answer thoroughly, but I know he's done some involvement with that. That would be where yeah, here's some picture. Where did Aaron just pull this out of nowhere?
I don't I got this picture somewhere and I don't remember where because
Okay, okay.
someone had this question in a previous dome talk and I don't know if Dennis is the one who knew where this was or what, but
Yeah.
it's a good example of what we're trying to do and I guess what people are trying to do, but what we are not trying to do.
Right. Right. Well, we haven't done one of these in a very, very, very long time. And I don't know if this particular project that's shown even got built. But so yeah, and as far as tornado resistant windows, if you're looking at like the triangle, so we can put any window in the dome that you put in a conventional house, but if you're looking at like the triangle skylights, which are pretty specific to our dome system, they are made out of 1/4 inch thick tempered glass. And you know, I don't know if you've had the opportunity to try that out, Aaron, but you can take a hammer to those things and smack on them. But tornadoes, you know, with wind pressure, that's how they test it. They create a pressure force and a vacuum, and they pulsate it back and forth. And after they break the window to see if it kind of comes apart. So if you wanted to really up your game on that, you'd also laminate them. But the glass units we put inside for the triangle glass, we can have whatever makeup you want for glass thickness, lamination, multiple panes, 2 panes, 3 panes, 4 panes. We can do a lot with that and customize it if you had an extreme environment situation you needed to kind of compensate for. So again, I guess if we're going to try to get through these, I'll just leave it at that unless you got anything to add, Aaron.
Uh, I would say just that because it is tempered when it does break, it breaks into a million tiny little pieces, not shards. So if that's a concern about being impaled from a shard from the sky, it probably won't happen that way.
Right. Yeah. Tempered glass is also called safety glass just for that reason. So, okay.
And we do have plenty of domes in hurricane zones, in tornado alley, in all kinds of various. We have one on the side of a volcano in Hawaii. So, you know, there are a lot of various environmental challenges that these domes stand up to. Um, so, you know, if you have specific questions, you know, give everybody one of these guys a call and they can talk you through your specific environmental concern. All right, so Clark has a question, two questions. Could our kits or hardware be modified or engineered to add on to a dome? I'm assuming it is an existing dome. Would it be worth it over furring the framing out?
So that's similar to the earlier question we had, maybe for the extra R value for the framing out. So you could build one of our domes, let's say, over an existing dome. And this has been done before, where then you can essentially, our dome handles the wind load, the snow load, and then the original dome that was there then just becomes the ceiling, and then you can fill that whole thing full of insulation if you wanted to do 2 feet of insulation, for instance, whatever you want to do. So you could do that, and we can basically mimic the geometry of your other dome. And people have done that, or at least I know one person's done it. I'm sure there's more than just the one, but I'm aware of one. So yeah, we could do that if you wanted to do that, if that's what you're talking about, essentially. Or if you're just talking about doing repairs or something and replacing certain parts of your dome with parts of our dome, that could also be done. It just depends on what you're trying to accomplish, I guess. But yeah, our hardware works for a lot of situations.
Clark says yes, so we answered his question. Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you, Clark. We appreciate knowing that. Sometimes we're kind of shooting in the dark with some of these. So,
Sure.
okay, so this one, I don't know that we have this. It depends on how fast Aaron's fingers are. Ronald would like to know if we have a pictorial or model view that shows a mid, low, and high profile domes of the same diameter side by side, or cutaways, basically to see outside and inside views of the 3 different options. And that might be something we could set up for next Dome Talk if you don't have it at the ready.
You know what, Aaron? If you want to get the next question, um, Terry, Aaron, if you go to Zip Tie Domes, they got some actually good pictures of what we're trying to talk about. That might be a good spot just to get a quick photo. But if you want to jump to the next one and give Aaron some time to see if he can find a good spot in Zip Tie Domes, I can maybe answer one more while he's looking.
Okay, I will do that. All right, so Aaron's looking for Ronald's answer, and then Devin and Gloria have a few questions. So, would a slab on grade be okay for sandy soil?
Yep, yep.
And oh, Dennis answered that one, so we'll take that one. And how many triangles would have to come out to make like a hall or a bump out? Like if you're making a connection between two domes, like a dome home and a dome garage, how many triangles do you have to take out? And I assume it depends on the frequency and the size.
Well, our normal standard extension would take out 3 triangles. So if you built a dome that was going to be used as a garage, we may take out more and create an extra large opening. But normally, if it's just a bedroom or a connecting link to a garage or something, normally it's just 3 triangles. And usually, depending on the frequency of the dome, you can have anywhere from like on a 2 frequency, 3 of those, on a 3 frequency, 5 of those, on a 4 frequency, you can, the higher your frequency goes up, you can create more openings within the dome. So.
Okay, great. Thank you. Sorry, I'm trying to
Nope. Nope, I know you got a lot going on with all that.
respond to a lot. Okay, so Connor has a question about living in rural Alaska and really likes the idea of the Renke shakes and the skylights that we make. But the shipping to Alaska is pretty cost prohibitive. Are there any other options or workarounds? Does Aaron want to go see Alaska?
Absolutely.
What kind of options do we have here?
Well, for shipping, I guess in Alaska you could do truck if he's talking shipping being expensive as far as you doing like a container on an actual ship. I don't know what he means by that, but yeah, that would be our options. Is if we can't do it by road, we have to use a ship. And sometimes shipping can be more because then you have to put it on a rail car. Typically, it will go on a rail car anyway, depending on what port it's leaving, and sometimes on a truck, and then it leaves that port and gets shipped, and then it has to get offloaded. So to Alaska, I don't know what the best thing would be, but we could kind of look into it and see what options might be. If he was looking at getting something delivered there. But like when we went to the last dome we shipped to Israel, I want to say it was maybe 4 to 6 thousand or something. I believe, and that was for the whole entire project being shipped from here to Israel. So, um, so it's not necessarily too terrible, but it is expensive. All right.
Okay, I wasn't able to find what you were looking for. I did find just some basic drawings on our site that somewhat illustrate the point from the outside, but I don't know if it's going to do what he wants to be able to like see or feel the difference of what it's like on the inside, and that's where dome tours are very very helpful. Um,
Yep. Yep. Yeah, dome tour is really the best way to understand, things you would like or don't like about certain layouts and domes and things you really help you kind of appreciate the space. If you live in a 1,500 square foot house now and you feel like, oh, this is all the room I need, this is perfect size, you go to a 1,500 square foot dome, it may feel a lot larger typically. So
I was kind of looking at here if you want to see the difference between a low and a high profile, just to get an idea of what happens. We have a low profile. You notice here that the dome starts to curve in almost immediately, which kind of gives you a lower ceiling. But if you see a high profile, it really has another entire row of triangles that goes up, and then it starts to curve in, which gives you greater internal second floor space, as Derek was saying. And then from there, some of our bigger domes, because anyway, little annotations don't go away. We have the mid profile, which because it's a 4 frequency, it doesn't have the same geometry, so it doesn't have to have that like almost kind of curving back in that the high profile does. It actually evens out on a perfectly 50% of a sphere. So I guess that's if you want to think about it in spherical terms, I think a low profile is like what is it, a 4/9 or a
Right. Yep.
4/9?
4/9 of a sphere and a high profile and that's on a 3 frequency.
Yep. And then a high profile is 5/9. So you have like a kind of a little bit more than just a half sphere. You have a little bit more. And then the 4 frequency is just a half sphere entirely. And that works out perfectly the way the geometry works. So those are what the different profiles what they kind of mean or will kind of get you in a conceptual thing. But until you go in, you don't know exactly what it means to you. Maybe if you want, a ceiling that is 30 feet high, which you can get with a high profile or a larger mid, or if you want more of like a curved shape and that covers more, um, single floor living sort of situation. Yeah, it's just kind of up to you. But yeah, you should definitely go check one out in person. It really, there's no other way to describe being in a dome rather than being in a dome.
Right. True. True. And of course, there are advantages, like you said, a high profile gives you more upper floor, but it's a little bit more of an expensive project. So there's like everything, there's a lot that goes into the decisions. But
Yeah.
all right.
And I think it's very personal too, because Derek, you and I have very different opinions on low versus mid versus high. And that's just sort of, I think, just what our aesthetic preferences are. So that all goes into it too.
Yep. Yep.
Mm.
The one that Derek is in right now is that one's actually kind of funny because that one's it's a low into a mid, or is it a mid into a high?
So this is a 4 frequency dome. So like Aaron was saying, the 4 frequency, you can have a half dome, which would be a mid dome, and it's an exact half dome, I guess. And then, or you can remove a row of triangles and then it can be a low profile. So in this dome, what you see behind me is the main floor that starts, the direction I'd be looking, I guess, would start on the main floor as a low profile dome. And then if you see that piano behind me in the background, as you go down those stairs, it becomes a high profile. And the reason he designed it this way is there's a hillside here. So it kind of starts out, and you walk into it, and as the hill goes down, it wraps around to the hill. So yeah, this is half low profile, half mid profile, or low profile and mid profile. Yeah, in this dome. So yeah, there's a lot of reasons to choose the profile and the frequency, and it often is determined by how much room you need and budget. So
All right. Well, thank you everyone for, I think, a record-setting 2-hour Dome Talk with some amazing questions. We've had a great time, and we have some follow-ups that I have, those of you that I promised follow-ups. I have got that listed, and we have a note about Dome Tour coming up. So it looks like we may have some 2023 info. So thank you, Ronald. I will let Aaron know, and we will get that information up. But we do have Dome Tour coming up in May, and that is free. And so if you are local or are you looking to explore Minnesota in May when it's beautiful and not snowing outside, it is a great way to get in and see those different domes that you're interested in. Check out what a slab on grade looks like. Check out what a basement looks like. All those features that we talked about today. And then, of course, have a chance to talk with Dennis and Derek a little bit more. So we will get that updated. Thank you, Dennis. And please come and tune back. For those of you, we've chatted with some of you about Dome School happening in June. If you're really serious and you want to know more about that, come for the Dome, stay for the food. And that information is up on the website. And as I said to Devin and Gloria, register early and also for accommodations because there's not a lot of options in North Branch and they fill up fast in the summer. So thank you so much, everyone. Derek and Aaron, anything else we need to tell these great folks before we let them have their night back?
I don't think so. I mean, thanks for hanging in here for almost 2 hours with us. It's pretty awesome. It's nice to see familiar faces, as I always say. And yeah. Anything for you, Aaron, besides your international travel plans or?
Yeah, no, just if you're planning on building a dome in some place but that's tropical, keep me in mind. Always or even Alaska. I've always wanted to go. So, we'll see. Thanks,
Sounds wonderful. Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful evening and come back and see us next month.
Thanks, guys.
everyone. Bye.